Hello there, and welcome to the Let's Talk Fishing video podcast. My name is Jay Angel, and I'm going to be your podcaster for this evening. Man, I am excited about this one. I get excited about podcasting every single time. I do it even after 2,000 podcasts. But I have another one of the 2025 inductees into the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame. This guy is named Daryl Christensen, and just like Mike Norris, I have also fished with him. Daryl Christensen is known as, in my not so humble opinion, he is the best walleye jigger there ever has been. I'm sure some people would argue with me, but I don't care. It's my show. So how are you doing tonight, Daryl?
I'm doing great, Jay. Thank you.
So after, 4.5, 5 decades in the fishing industry, you get inducted into the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame. How does that feel?
It feels great. It's a very humbling thing. It's just something that, I don't know anyone who actually, when they start out fishing when they're young, thinks I'm going to fish and get in the Fishing Hall of Fame. Who thinks like that? But it happened, and with the help of a tremendous amount of people, and it's just been great. It's just been great.
I can't imagine. That is such an honor. I mean, it's so hard to get into that place, and wow. I mean, you've almost got me speechless. I mean, wow. I mean, I followed your career in the PWT. I started following the PWT back in '97. I think I fished with you in probably '99 or 2000 up on Little Bay.
Yeah.
And I read your book. Wow. Your book is called Journal of a Walleye Pro, correct?
Right.
Is that still in print?
No. Everything that I've done is sold out. We did 2 or 3 reprints on almost all my books, and they sold out. And by then I was out of the tournament fishing thing, so I never reprinted them.
And also, one thing I'd like to tell you guys about Daryl. Didn't you win the PWT on Norfolk Lake in Arkansas?
Was that Lake Stockton, Missouri, actually?
Lake Stockton, Missouri. Oh, my goodness. So wrong.
Well, that's all right. I did fish Norfolk a couple times. I didn't do that great, but yeah.
I was about to say I fished Norfolk, and I don't know how people catch walleyes there, but Stockton was probably every bit as difficult as Norfolk to catch walleyes at.
It was a tough tournament. I had a 0 on day 1, and came back and won it. And I think that I'm the only angler that's ever actually done that on that level. Usually you're 0 on day 1. I mean, to come back and win is almost impossible.
I think a lesser man would have just gone home.
That wasn't happening.
Wow, but 0 on day 1, you came back and won it. That's nothing short of amazing. An amazing.
Well, and the thing is, those fish. I caught all those fish in the same spot that I fished on day 1. So sometimes you just need to go. You have a tough day on a spot, you need to go back there. And it loaded up, and the rest is history.
That's just wow. That's perseverance. I don't know if I would have done that if I zeroed on a spot. I think I'd be looking for other spots, but that's just me.
Yeah, well, it's a situational thing. I mean, cold front came in, shut the fish down. They moved deep, they suspended, they wouldn't bite, and the next day they moved back shallow, and it was just pitching jigs at them, of course, and it was awesome. They were hungry little guys.
So, Daryl, what I really want to talk to you about is jigging. Now, over the course, I don't know if you knew this, but I lived about 2 miles away from Bartow's Landing in Peru, Illinois, which is Bartow's Landing, of course, is on the Illinois River. I developed a technique for jigging walleyes where I started out by using one rod because I would concentrate all my efforts on that one rod.
Mm-hmm.
I'd take it down to the bottom, pull it about 2 inches up, and just hold it there. And just sit there with my head down enough so I could see where see where my boat's going, of course,
Sure.
and and just hold it there. Now, when I was young, my dad taught me in Canada, cast it out. And of course, that works sometimes, but that thing that the technique that I used on the Illinois River, which is, did you do the same thing with just holding the jig a couple inches to about 6 inches off the bottom?
Right. Or ticking bottom, or whatever they decide they want to, but what presentation they want. Um, and I agree with you. Fishing one rod really well is so much better than fishing two rods really bad. And
Yes.
Tournament competition, it's different. You're fishing two rods because you want to double your chances and all that. And but it takes a long time to get to the point where you can do that efficiently and effectively. The guys that say, "Oh yeah, I learned how to vertical jig today. It's really easy." Well, yeah, it's really easy when the fish are really biting and there's thousands of them in the river. And but when the bite's not like that, then you got to change things up and do a lot of subtle things different. That's jigging in a nutshell, anyway. Subtle things differently, and
Yes.
you don't. Mike McClellan always says, "Well, you can't make fish bite. If they don't want to bite, they're not going to bite." And there's some truth to that, but for me, when the tougher the bite got, the better I did,
Yes.
especially in tournaments. And I would just snap jig spoons,
Ooh.
horribly, crazily aggressive, or put on a half-ounce jig when I should be fishing a quarter-ounce, and jig that way more aggressively and really trigger more bites. So you can sometimes make them bite,
So you were going for a reaction bite.
A reaction bite, right? Yep.
That's a good, I never thought of. Please come back. Please come back. Please come back. Okay, we're back.
Okay.
Sorry about that, guys. Just connection problems. I can't do anything about that. Daryl, I'm sorry about that. There's connection problems. I live out in the country in Louisiana, and I pay the same as everybody else, but I don't get the same service apparently. But anyways, we're back.
Good. So we were talking about
some technical problems, but I adapt. About walleye jigging. We were talking about walleye jigging. You started talking about a reaction bite with the spoons.
Right, and that's a whole nother realm of jigging. I mean, you don't fish it the same as you do a jig, and and you go way off. You can go way off in a la land with it. Trying to explain to someone how to fish a jigging spoon, uh, even when they got the rod in their hand, is sometimes really difficult.
And you have to follow it down. Yeah, you know, that's interesting that you said that because I always went the other way when things got really tough and I was sure that the fish were still there. I would get a big old fat nasty leech and put it on
Mhm.
with the smallest little sinker I could get. Put the sinker like 3 feet above it, so the leech is just going like this, or a fathead minnow is just going like this. And sometimes that would trigger a reaction strike.
Conventional wisdom, whatever that is, uh,
Yeah,
says, says cold fronts, fish are off the bite, whatever the case, whatever the reason. Um, you slow down, you fish smaller, you fish lighter. Uh, you have to be way more patient, and all of that is all of that works. Okay, or can work. Um, a lot of times I would do the opposite, and many times in tournaments, especially on day three, the fish have been beat up pretty good, um, and I would speed troll. I fish bouncers and spinners with my trolling motor on high, and uh, when guys are maybe Lindy rigging little stuff, I'd go with a big spinner, big blade, full crawler, 2 to 3 ounce bottom bouncer, and just hum over those fish, and you can trigger some bites, and some when I won Lake Erie, I was trolling 2.2 to 2.5 miles an hour, and everyone was going 1.2, 1.3. They didn't believe me, but that's all right because I did it again a few tournaments later on a tough bite and caught. I didn't win that tournament, but I finished in the top five and speed trolling. So sometimes it doesn't always work, but what the heck? Try it. That's try it for an hour, and if it
that
ain't
makes
happening,
sense.
you
That
know,
makes sense because everybody else is going for a traditional feeding bite when the fish are negative, and you were going for a reaction bite.
right? Definitely going for a reaction bite, and I learned that by fishing jigging spoons. I thought, well, if it works with jigging spoons, why wouldn't it work trolling? Just speed up, you know.
So,
I mean,
what kind of jigging spoons do you like?
uh, my favorite jigging spoon was far and away a Hopkins spoon.
Okay.
I just had the right drop speed, the right profile. Uh, I fished every kind of jigging spoon ever made on the same bunches of fish, and the Hopkins way outperformed the other ones. So it wasn't even close.
That's interesting because there was a guy who won a Bassmaster Elite Series on one of the big lakes in Alabama, doing just what you're saying. He would find pods of big bass right that were sitting right next to brush piles, and it was after a really bad cold front, and he was going like this with that thing, going right through the schools and hooking into. But every fifth one that he hooked into, he'd bring in because he just couldn't hold on to them. It was thrilling coverage, man. Because I got him, and he,
Yeah, yeah.
up and down, and but then finally he's like, I got 5 more minutes, and man, he had that 250 just buzzing to get back to the boat launch in time.
Well, the deal with it is a lot of times I would fish weeds with jigging spoons. You got a treble hook on there, so you're getting weeds on the hook every time. Most fishermen gets old in a hurry because they got to pick the weeds off, and that's just part of the routine. You pick the weeds off,
Yes,
throw it back out there, and that's just life in fishing. And uh, yeah, you do what it takes. I mean, what else you gonna throw in there?
and how many times have you pulled it off a weed and a fish grabs it?
Absolutely.
That's exciting when that happens. That happened to me on Monday, bass fishing. I was using a chatterbait, and I I pulled it off, and then a big bass. Whoosh! Yes! I got him. I got him. So exciting. That is just so exciting. Man, I love that. I just love that. So you just got a new rod, didn't you?
I just got a wonderful Christmas present from Grant Rods, actually. Custom rod that says Daryl Christensen Jigmeister on it.
Oh man, Jigmeister.
Oh, hey, I mean, and I'm scared to actually use it because I don't want to get it dirty. So, you will never see me fishing a night crawler with that rod. All right. But no, it's a wonderful rod. My favorite medium 6.5 foot Cuda.
That is so funny because I just happen to have one of those right here. A Cuda, 6.5 foot.
Looks just like mine.
But it doesn't say Jigmeister.
It does not.
Because there is only one Jigmeister. Just look at that rod, guys. That is just a work of art.
It's an incredibly beautiful rod.
Like I was telling Mike Norris, that right there, those eyes.
Yeah.
I said those eyes are as beautiful as Pamela Anderson's eyes, you know.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
What was your next question?
I had to go back to 12 years old. I'm sorry. I'm 56 years old, man. I should stop talking like that sooner or later. Before I hit 67, you know. but truly, guys, walleye jigging, 6'6" medium action. Daryl and I obviously agree.
Well, you know, I mean, there's a lot of different rods for a lot of different applications, but you know that rod is my go-to. I can fish just about any presentation I want with it, and if you go to heavy, you can only do a few things with a heavy rod.
Yes.
You go to light, it's too light. So when I was in my trophy walleye phase, when I was younger, you're fishing 10 to 14 pound fish, rod in hand. It's not trolling, it's rod in hand, jigging primarily. I used heavy stuff. I mean, you had to.
You gotta get a 13-pound walleye off the bottom now,
right.
Particularly if you're in rocks.
Right. Oh, for sure. I took a 14.4 in a tournament. I thought, well, there's big fish in the tournament, but it wasn't. Somebody had a 15, so.
Oh, was that in Saskatchewan? I mean, 15 pounds. That's ridiculous.
That was in the Vanity Cup in Nipawin, Saskatchewan. And,
yeah, that's why I said, was that in Saskatchewan? Jeez.
Lake Tobin, and what a horse, what a giant! And my next smallest fish was 13. That was fun.
Now you're gonna tell me you didn't win?
Did not win. No.
Wow, you had a 14 13. And
I know, slot tournament, man. I couldn't get the little guys. No.
Oh.
I probably caught 25 fish between 8 and 14 pounds that day. Scary.
And listeners here, I just want to tell you, I am. There's something wrong with StreamYard tonight. I am not getting messages, so please. It's not that I'm not responding to you. I'm just not seeing your messages. That makes me angry. I like to talk to my listeners.
Oh, sure.
But anyways, yeah, we're talking to Daryl tonight, so that's cool. So a 14.4. Did you jig that up, Daryl?
I actually caught that fish on a Lindy rig, in 6 feet of water. I was casting a Lindy rig into about 5 feet of water and bringing it down a break with a leech, and it was crazy how they wanted that. I switched to jigs pre-fishing, they wouldn't take it on a jig. So Lindy rig with 3 foot leader, and It was a killer. I mean, those fish were all over that bait. Isn't that weird? I mean, it's just,
That is weird.
but you know that, and that's the thing. That's why you pre-fish. I mean, you try if you. I never pre-fished just throwing a jig for 5 days or 4 days, however long I pre-fished. I tried a lot of goofy, different stuff, and sometimes there'd be one or two things: a color, a presentation that they wanted, and you don't find that out by doing the same thing all the time,
No,
you know. So you had
I
to,
think pre-fishing was mostly for showing you what the fish don't want.
well, that, yeah, exactly,
You find out where they are, then find out what they're biting on, and then, but you just want to eliminate as much water as you can.
right.
And I learned that from following the PWT around for several years. The in fishermen would pay for my lodging, and I just go and fish with you guys. What a great deal for me.
How cool, yeah, fun. Well, that's how we
It's
got.
like fish with you, calc off and set it up, and
Yeah, that's how we got to fish. Yeah, well, there's a guy. People say, well, who helped you out in your career? I got my list has 100 people on it that
jeez.
that I feel helped me in some way, and some much more than others, but still in some way. And of course, a lot of those included sponsors.
Yeah.
But and it's every sponsor, even the smallest sponsor, because you had a need, and they filled that niche, and you didn't have to think about that anymore. You could just concentrate on fishing, and that's really important. And and kudos to them. I mean, how do you don't, I don't know, you don't get in the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame uh, doing it alone.
No, no.
And there's people that say the maybe back in the day, yeah, but even back in the day, you still had to know somebody. You still had, if you were a guide or
Yeah.
there wasn't really professional tournaments in those days, and those guys were guides, and they were spokespeople, for the few tackle companies there were back then, and and maybe writers, a lot of writers, and
Yes.
people doing seminars and so on. So the Fishing Hall of Fame is really cool. I mean, for me, to be part of it. But when you go through there and you see Ernest Hemingway, right? You're like,
Yes.
okay, I'm in a Fishing Hall of Fame with Ernest Hemingway. How about that?
How
How
about
cool is
that?
that? I
Man
mean,
at the sea,
that
man.
is so like way cool.
Way
And
cool.
and people you expect to be in there, like Alan Ron Lindner, and many, many more of my. I have so many friends that are in the Hall of Fame,
Yes.
uh, and a lot of those helped me out along the way. They may not have taught me to be a better fisherman, but they definitely taught me to be a better person and a
Yes.
better spokesperson, and to remind me that you're in the public eye, you're under a microscope. Act like it. Don't be a dummy. Don't do and don't be stupid. And when you lose, be gracious. Just
Yes.
thankful that you got the opportunity to participate, because nobody ever wins every tournament. Uh, so there was that, and yeah, we don't have time to go through all those people. But Jim Kalkofen was one huge,
Yes.
and Al Lindner for sure, and uh, and so many more. Uh, yeah,
Al Linder, like you said, he was not only a fantastic fisherman, a great spokesman, but he is a great person as well.
yes,
Like we talked about before the show, he's humble, and I've only talked to him a couple of times, and you know the man as a man, and I don't, but every dealing I had with him, he was just a humble person who would sit there and listen to me.
he's a listener, and that's big time. And I never expected that from somebody of his stature and status back in the day. Um, he was so head and shoulders above almost everyone else in the fishing business. But if you got him alone, he was a listener. He would listen. He would ask you questions about your life, about your family, about and he truly wanted to know.
Yes.
It wasn't small talk, and that really impressed me, and it also taught me a lot about how to deal with people as well. Because fishing's fishing. I mean, but there's a whole
Yeah.
lot of other stuff going on in people's lives that are more important than putting a fish in the boat.
And
Yeah.
that's one thing I had to learn the hard way. The
Well,
family is more important than fishing. Yes.
we all do. You know, we just grow up eventually.
I did. I was in my 40s, but I still did it.
Yeah, well, good for you. That was way quicker than me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's fantastic, man. I just like we said, I never heard you in the middle of controversies. You were always there. You were always there at the PWT, but you were never involved in the controversies. You were never involved in any of the gripe sessions I saw. I met just about all the guys there, and I met all the guys I read about in the In Fisherman and the Walleye Insider when I was growing up. What a great time in my life that was. I was in my 20s. I was traveling around with the
Yeah.
PWT,
Yeah.
and I wasn't spending money.
There you go. Right. Like the rest of us.
Yeah, because then I got into tournaments. I'm like, holy smokes, this is expensive.
Is it?
You know,
Yeah, it's expensive, but and you don't have to be rich to be in it. It helps. I mean, it certainly helps. The very first Masters Walleye Circuit tournament I fished with Scott Hill, who was my tournament partner. Who, again, if it wasn't for Scott Hill, I wouldn't be in the Fishing Hall of Fame because I never would have pursued that. And we went to the first tournament on the Illinois River. Both of us had two rods to our name.
yep.
And a little tackle box about like this, full of jigs. He was a jigger, I was a jigger, and that was it. And here we are fishing the Masters Walleye Circuit, trying to qualify for the World Championship, and we got two rods apiece and a handful of jigs.
And probably some very old line. Yeah.
Oh, terrible! And we're picking night crawlers out of the motel parking lot. We didn't stay at the motel. We just parked there and slept in the truck, because you didn't. It was expensive. I mean,
It was expensive. Yeah.
no sponsors, but we did well. And the next year, the sponsors started coming in, and then the whole industry took off. And a lot of that was thanks to the Linders with the PWT and Cabela's and others that got on board, and we had two or three different circuits we could fish, and he made a career out of it. So it was, a lot of that's timing.
I'm glad you brought that up about the Linders and the Linders had the In Fisherman, but also they had the In Fisherman television that just brought fishing on that level to the masses.
What Al understood about. Yeah, and of course, In Fisherman, they were all species, but there was a major focus on walleye fishing from them, as we know, and being at headquartered in Minnesota, and so on. But one thing that I heard Al in an interview tell somebody, he said, we knew how to do this where we live geographically, but these guys fishing this circuit are from all over the country and Canada, and they're bringing in local techniques, regional techniques from bodies of water that we would never even think of fishing. We wouldn't go there, and
Yes.
so and what that did is it's so expanded. Uh, expanded his outreach to anglers by connecting them to the Columbia River, way out west. Uh, the reservoirs in the south, Erie, Lake Ontario, St. Lawrence River, the three rivers in Pennsylvania. I mean, and all of a sudden we're all over the map, bringing in weird and new techniques that you didn't use on Mille Lacs.
Yes.
You know, and people found out that Mille Lacs wasn't the only walleye lake in North America, and uh, or Leech Lake, or just that area. But Al realized that early on, and he said, "No, we need to do this. We need to grow this, and this is a way to grow it." And they did the Walleye Insider and did the TV show, and everything just took off from there. Yeah, it was pretty cool to hear him say, we almost like we've gone as far as we can go. We need new
Yes.
new people. We need new thoughts. We need new techniques and ideas and on how to catch fish in other places. And yeah,
I love that. I love that. Anything that pushes my lifestyle, I call fishing my lifestyle, forward, in my mind is good.
right. Well, you got to set your ego on the shelf. I mean, if you're gonna grow, if you're gonna grow in anything, I don't care what it is. You got to set your ego on the shelf, and listen and learn new stuff. If you're gonna be a professional angler and you only know how to jig fish,
Yes.
you are so gonna not make it. If you don't know how to do the 6 basic things to catch walleyes, and if you don't learn it, and a lot of guys wouldn't, if
Yes.
and I don't want to get into all of this, but if you don't
Yeah.
embrace,
No need.
embrace and learn technology, when we were, we had Loran units, and before that, we were triangulating to find
Yes.
spots, and
Yes.
in tournament fishing, for crying out loud, and we got Loran units, and people quit. Anglers
Yes.
quit because they said, "Well, that ain't fair." And I'm like, "Holy mackerel, this is the greatest thing ever!" And then we
Yeah.
got GPS, and that was even way better, And it's just, the thing is, you embrace it, you learn it, you don't abuse it. Yeah, you
When I've got my first Lowrance LMS 350A,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it had that crude GPS on it. You come out of your boat ramp on the Green Bay, and you make 6 waypoints all in a row, so that you can find the boat ramp again. Hopefully,
absolutely.
the thing, because if you're following your ship trap back, you might be half a mile off.
Right, and we thought that was
Nowadays, you can pinpoint it to a foot, but back in the '90s, it wasn't so. You had to really be careful.
oh, I just think of what I could have done with spot lock,
Yes.
and
Oh,
how I just, I was a bow mount guy because I was a bass guy, and so before fishing walleye tournaments, and I couldn't get off that bow mount. You're in 3 footers, and it's coming out of the water, and you're crashing back down day after day, and everybody goes, "How do you do that?" And now was the first time Gary Parsons had spot lock on his boat. I did a show with him. And I said, "That is so unfair." you know? He said, "You retired too soon, man." He said, "This is going to allow me to fish another 20 years," and it has.
because now you can stand in the middle of your boat, and you don't get thrown 2 feet up in the air every time. Yeah.
Absolutely, and you don't drift 100 yards while you're netting the fish, and then
Yes.
get back, get back on your spot again. Hopefully, you can get back to it before somebody else does.
I remember those days when you just hold your rod still, and your baits are jigging up and down,
Yeah,
and
but
I'm just hoping I don't get thrown out of my boat. Yeah.
it's just seriously, it's just as much fun for me to swing a bluegill in over the bank with a cane pole right now. I mean, that never ever ever has gotten old and still hasn't. I mean, it's just like it takes you back to being a kid.
I can tell you though, I live down in the deep south now. I mean, I live about 50 miles away from where I can go saltwater fishing. I miss smallmouth bass and walleyes a lot.
I imagine.
there's a fish called a speckled trout down here, and
Yes.
and they bite just like a walleye, you know. And you set the hook, and you can feel a big one. You can feel their head shaking, and it gives me goosebumps sometimes. It brings back that youthful enthusiasm that got me addicted to fishing back in the 70s.
Yeah, well, you can fish those trout like that. You can,
Yeah.
yeah. I did quite a bit of it down in Terra Verde, Florida,
Okay.
and just casting jigs.
Yes.
Or oh,
Swim baits.
yeah, swim baits, and it's riot. You know, fun.
Oh, yep. Yes, I probably make at least 25 trips a year down the coast to fish for those things, and I've caught them up to 25 inches long, and it just
Yeah,
they're like walleyes. It just when they get up to over about 22 inches, they're just a different animal. They fight differently, they bite differently. You use different tactics to catch them. You don't normally catch a 25 incher the same way you would catch a 10 incher, just like with walleyes.
absolutely. Yep.
And they come in the wintertime. We can catch them from the shore. So much fun. Just like the first time I went to, Holland, Michigan, my friend calls me. He says, "Dude, you got to come up here. I know I haven't talked to you in 10 years, but I'm catching 10-pound walleyes from the shore." And I said, "I'm going to call BS. He said, when can you come up here?" I said, "How about tomorrow? It's only a 5-hour drive. I can make that tomorrow." So working for the government, I just called my boss in the morning when I was on my way and said, "Hey, man, I'm not coming in for the next 2 days fishing." And first cast, I'm snagged. I'm snagged. And he's like, "No, man, it's 25 feet deep here. You're using a husky jerk. You're not snagged." It was an 8-pound walleye on my first cast, and
Wow.
what a gift! What a blessing!
Yeah. Fun stuff.
And he said, "We can throw this on the grill." I'm like, "You don't kill an 8-pound walleye?"
Well, at Erie, that's an eater
Yes, it is.
in the spring.
And I bet in Michigan, people didn't realize back then how many walleyes were in southern Lake Michigan. Now everybody's fishing for them, but
Yeah,
back then,
right off of Chicago, right?
yes, they're catching them right off of Chicago now.
Incredible. That's awesome.
In fact, my buddy did not want me to write about it, and I said I can't spend 2 days
Yeah.
fishing and hundreds of dollars to get up here, get licenses, and of course, if every time I go fishing, I have to buy at least 10 new lures,
Oh, true.
and I can't do that without writing and recouping some of this cost. And he begrudgingly, I said, "Well, you can't really tell me not to write anyways." you don't, writers are the mouths of the fishing industry, and that's what we do. Is we share information. Yes, there are going to be more people here now, but you never should have called me because you knew I had a big mouth back in high school.
That's good.
But it's been, I'm sure you could say the same thing. The fishing industry has been good to me. And obviously, you being in the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame, has been fantastic to you.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's hard for me to put it all together. It's like a puzzle. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. Like I said, I've got these 100 people that helped, but then there's others, and there's family, and there's the media, and there's so many different pieces of the puzzle, and all the way down to the very last piece that says Fishing Hall of Fame,
Yes.
if you want to say that. But it doesn't have to be Fishing Hall of Fame either. It's just a lifetime of doing what you love to do, and who
Doing what you love and loving what you do.
who made that possible. Yeah. Many people.
Well, speaking of that, we're about 40 minutes after the hour. Would you like to say thank you to a few of the bigger folks who helped you?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say a really big thank you to the Hall of Fame selection committee. I mean, that's a real task to have to wade through 50, 60 nominees a year, and all the resumes and all the information, and to take that vote, especially the executive director Emmett Brown, who that
Yes.
Hall of Fame is incredible. I mean, if you're an angler and you're watching this, and if you've never been to Hayward to the Fishing Hall of Fame, you've got to go see that. It's the most incredible museum of any kind to begin with, but then it's all fishing, and to see all the people who are in the Hall of Fame, who've been inducted or enshrined in the Hall of Fame, it brings back a gazillion memories. I mean, of a life through a lifetime of fishing, because you knew so many of those people or read their bylines, and Tim Lesmeister, who
Yes.
was yeah, you know Tim.
Yeah, I do know Tim. I was in the AGLO, Association of Great Lakes Outdoor
Yeah,
Writers with him. Yeah.
and he he's a committee chair, and of course our friend Jim Grant,
Yes.
who's also voted for my inductions, and the rest of the committee as well. I mean, it's just an amazing. They're amazing people who care so much about the industry and fishing, their passion, and the gardens up there are incredible, and it's just a fun place to go to and walk around, and you can really be humbled. Well, if you go in there and you're a fisherman, you're not humbled by it. Maybe you should go to Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and just the history there, seeing the 4 horsepower motors that are older than we are,
Absolutely.
and the old fishing rods that were nothing more than probably pool cues. This is a musky rod. No, that's a pool cue. I know a pool cue. I've
Well,
been
I
around.
know, right. I know that. I mean, there's some people who are very special in my life. My wife Sherry, who supported me through all of this, and still does. And in the industry, Jackie Camargo from Tracker, Mike Finney, people who I worked with my whole career. Without them, I couldn't have done it. Jim Calcofin, of course. It's from so many different directions, as a friend, as a mentor, as a sponsor when he was with promotions manager for Mercury.
Yes.
He put me on the national fishing team, and things that grow from there. And and Ron and Al, I mean, I miss Ron terribly, because we were good friends, and we had fished a lot together and had a lot of fun. You want to have fun, that was the guy to fish with. He was a riot. And a lot of the in-fisherman people, Mike Simpson, who I worked with in video a lot, but in fish, and oh man, I'm going to leave 80 people out, but my dad and my grandpa for teaching me or taking me fishing.
Yes.
They were amazing, and they taught me how to fish, and by the time I was 15, I was teaching them how to fish.
Yeah, it's all good Wisconsin fathers do. My dad was from Wisconsin. He taught me how to fish too. Yeah.
Yeah. Just yeah. I don't know. I don't know where else to go with that. I mean, I've got I told my wife, so I got this list of all these people that I need to thank yet. You won't be able to read it, but
No.
there it is. Look at that.
Yeah, we can see it. That's extensive,
isn't it? And the ones marked in red I've thanked. So I'm not got a long ways to go yet. But the induction ceremony will be on March 8th in Milwaukee, and I'll get an opportunity prior to that to thank everyone. So, and hopefully a few of them will be able to make it for the ceremony.
Well, I tell you, just from the bottom of my heart, just congratulations. I was thrilled. I was thrilled when you and Norris came in. Norris, of course, I've done so much with him, and he's helped me so much. And I was actually on vacation down in Cape Coral, Florida, and when Grant sent me the announcement, and I called him right then. It was like 7:00 in the morning. Are you up? He said, yeah, I'm going fishing. What do you want? Dude, congrats. And he's like, oh, thank you.
You know,
I can barely talk.
yeah, thank you so much.
And thank you, man.
And that's the cool thing. I've had so many people that were genuinely happy, and that I was chosen, and that means an awful lot to me. I mean,
well,
that
when good things happen to good people, it's just a good thing. In my mind, yes.
And Mike Norris and I will be inducted on the same day at the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel show. So, and we started our careers the same year. Isn't that crazy?
Did you?
Yep.
That's awesome.
And we were talking about that.
I watched Tommy get inducted online, and I don't think there was a dry eye in the whole place.
Right.
That was such a emotional time. I'm sure it's going to be the same way with you guys, but with Tommy, of course, it was different circumstances. But I also fished with him. I probably fished with him 5 times, and you want to laugh all day long in a boat. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
There's another man, just like you and Mike, pushed the sport forward and got inducted into the Hall of Fame. And that's, I said this about Norris. I'm also going to say it about you, is you are everything that the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame stands for.
Wow.
That goes far beyond fishing.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And I want to be that guy. I mean, I want to be the guy that can promote the hall, and if you can't make it up there, join it. Join. You get some really cool stuff, and list of all the world records. The keeper of all the fishing records, and it's just not a local Hall of Fame. It's international now, and we've got members in there from France and Sweden and England and Canada, of course, and I think now 47 states.
Jeez.
In the United States. So I mean, it's pretty amazing to be included in that. I don't know if I'll ever get used to that. I mean, yeah. I mean, it just seems like, when I go there next spring, when it opens again in May or in April, and see my plaque there, it'd be like, really, Emmett showed me where it was going to be when I was up there in September, and I'm just like, I'm just shaking my head, and just can't. Yeah, I just can't even. And I don't know, and when I first saw it, that I'd been chosen, pretty emotional. I mean, it was, I mean, it's. I don't want to be trite about it. Like, it's a rubber stamp on my career or stuff like that. That's, that's not it. It's just that I'm just so incredibly honored by it and humbled by it that, I got a hat. It's just,
yeah.
So I wear it all the time.
Hat out in the hot weather and let it get sweat all over it. I think that would be my formal hat.
That is my formal hat. I only use it for podcasts.
Yeah. Wow. That is so cool. Well, hey, Daryl, we're about out of time. I hate to do this because I'm having such a good time talking to you. But I'd like to thank everybody for tuning into a especially special podcast here, edition of the Let's Talk Fishing video podcast. Man, you know what, guys? It's Wednesday night. Make your plans. Get out there. Go fishing. You only get to do this once. And thank you, Daryl, for taking time out of your very busy schedule. And with that, I'm going to end the show. Please stick around. I'd like to talk to you for 2 minutes after the show.
Sure. Thank you.
Good night, guys. Thank you.